This is Andy Crouch from All About Beer. I want to take a moment to thank Sacred Vice Brewing for coming on as an underwriter. Philadelphia is one of my favorite beer cities, and Sacred Vice is Philly's family brewery. With its gorgeous longleaf pine Art Deco style bar, cozy as hell spaces to sip one of the brewery's classic styles, and all of its LP records on display, Sacred Vice is a must visit. We appreciate how the folks at Sacred Vice understand how important it is to support beer journalism. And if you want to join Sacred Vice and the other companies helping us pay our writers, podcasters, and artists, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'd love to have you join the All About Beer community.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. A bit of a departure on the show this week, as I'm joined by Josh Weikert, an avid homebrewer and writer who is well known in certain circles of the industry as a trusted voice and a dedicated beersmith. But we'll be talking about his impressive run of wins on the game show Jeopardy and his upcoming turn on the show's Tournament of Champions. But first, I've been talking about this on the show for a while, and you often hear Andy Crouch at the cold open of the shows, but the way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and to curious beer drinkers is through your support. We've created an affordable underwriting program that is easy on your budget, helps you get visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around a bit. You can read some of the recent articles, peruse the archives, which go all the way back to 1979, and you can tune into other podcasts like the Brewer to Brewer Show and the All About Beer podcast. You won't be disappointed. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at All About Beer, and you can keep up with everything else we have going on through those channels. We will get into this conversation in just a moment, but first, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
I've had the good fortune of knowing Josh Weikert for years now. We've only met once in person, I think, and it was years ago in Pittsburgh during what was then HomebrewCon. I've been an avid reader of his homebrew work in print and online and enjoy following his exploits on social media. One of his recent adventures was being a contestant on Jeopardy, the popular television game show, which is beamed into millions of homes each weeknight. Not only was he a contestant, but he won 6 out of the 7 games he played, earning him a spot in the Tournament of Champions, the annual event on the show where big winners are invited back to compete against each other. That begins on the 21st of this year, with Josh making his first appearance on the 23rd. So it seemed only appropriate to have him break down the process, get insight into what it's like stepping onto that stage, and then getting the chance to do it again and again. Here's our conversation. Josh, thanks for doing this. I've been excited about this conversation with you for a little while now, since watching you last year on the show, and now knowing that you're going to the Tournament of Champions, or that you've already been there, but like we'll get to see what happens in a couple of days, and I'll get to that in a minute. But when do you have like a memory of when you're like, yeah, I'm going to try out for the show? Because a lot of people watch it, and there's a lot of like the armchair question answering, and they run, if you want to participate, and I know it's a process to get in, but like not everybody's like, yeah, I want to be on that stage. I think it takes guts to even get to that point, and a certain, I'm going to say self-confidence, and I mean that in the best.
I'm going to say arrogance.
Way.
Yeah.
No, not arrogance. But self-confidence.
Well,
like it's like, I feel good when I get one answer at home, but I would never have the confidence in myself to be like, yeah, I'm going to try out, because like I know I'd never make the stage. Sure. But do you have a memory of when you wanted to make this a goal to try to achieve?
I mean, I found out when I went out to play this past February, I should say, 11 months ago.
Yeah, 2025, yeah.
walking up to the studio, stage 10, the Alex Trebek stage. And on the side of all of these studios at Sony Pictures, they have sort of like little bronze plaques that say sort of like what's been shot in that studio. And they mentioned there that Jeopardy came back from not the Art Fleming years in the 1960s, but came back in 1984. And it occurred to me in that moment, because I remember watching Jeopardy as a really young kid. Like, I was 6 years old when Jeopardy came back on the air with Alex Trebek. And it occurred to me that I must have been watching kind of almost from the first time it came back. Because we watched Jeopardy in my family. I come from a family of people who love games and playing cards and trivia and everything else. And so we watched Jeopardy every night. And we didn't just like watch for fun. I mean, it was fun for us, but that's not like why we watched. We were taking it seriously. And my parents, encouraged my sister and I both to try to answer these questions. And from the time we were little kids. So I sort of grew up in like a trivia environment. And not that they pushed it on us, but it was just, we argued with each other and we competed with each other. And this was just a fun format in which to do that. Like television for us in any format in movies was never like a passive thing. Like we were always interacting with the screen and with each other. So it kind of always felt like we were playing Jeopardy when we watched Jeopardy. And so I would say I first thought about being on the show probably like when I was like in my teens, right? Because you see like the college tournament and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I never tried out nor auditioned or anything like that for that then, but it was not long after that I kind of submitted for the first time, like my interest in appearing. And I remember I was 24 years old. I was at work and I got a phone call from Culver City. And this was when they still did like city by city auditions. There was one coming up in Philadelphia, and I got the call, and it was Jeopardy. But at the time, I was working in like a public bullpen like area, and so like I wanted to put them on hold so I could go take the call where it was a little more quiet. So I said, "Yeah, can you just hold on 1 second?" And I put the phone on hold, go back, pick up my extension from the back, and the call was gone. And
oh gosh!
And there was no way for me to get back in touch with them or anything else, and they didn't call back. So I'm like, oh, I missed my chance. But then,
wow, that's hardcore from them. It's like you don't really put us on hold.
Right?
Yeah,
just cut the cord.
Jeopardy waits for no one. Yeah.
But years later, when you could take the online test, I started taking the online test, and this past year, it was the summer of 24. Basically, I got an email saying, congratulations, like you passed the online test. Like, and no one knows what that means, right? It's 50 questions and everybody thinks they know sort of what a passing score is. There's rumors. It's like, oh, you need at least 45 out of 50 and things like that. But nobody knows for sure. But I get the email saying, congratulations, you passed the online test. We'd like you to take it again, I guess, to prove the first wasn't a fluke, right? And so I took it again, and then I get another email saying, congratulations, you passed. We'd like you to take it again, except this time we're going to have somebody on Zoom watching you take the test. This, I assume, is to protect them from some people like yelling you the answers and like faking them out, right? So it is a series of just like narrowing gates here. And then after that test, I got a further email. This was in August of last year. Saying we'd like to invite you to like a proper like practice game and audition and a mock interview and things like that. And I did that, and that was a ton of fun. And at the end of that, they tell you, congratulations, you're now in the contestant pool of like about 2,500 people. And you'll be in the contestant pool for 18 months. And like, don't be surprised if you don't get the call. Lots of people sort of like have to go through this over and over again before they finally get, called up to the stage. And so I was just thinking, this has been a ton of fun. This was as far as I ever planned to get in this whole process. It is so cool. I can say I was in the Jeopardy contestant pool. But then it was almost a year ago today. We're recording this on January 9th. It was January 10th of last year that I got a phone call. And again, from Culver City. And this time I wasn't going to hang up no matter what happened. But now we have caller ID, so I can always call it back. But I got the call. And at first, I thought they were just like, sort of like reconfirming my eligibility, because they're like, we just need to reconfirm, like you still haven't like committed any felonies or anything like that.
Yeah. We need you to take the online test again.
Exactly, one more time. But I said, nope, I'm still crime free and drug free and everything else. And so they said, well, then I've got good news for you. We'd love for you to come out. So that phone call was like the realization of probably like 20, 30 years of just sort of like imagining what that would feel like. And then you're absolutely right. Like to walk out on that stage is, first of all, a ton of fun. Like the whole process, the team at Sony is so good at this about keeping contestants comfortable and relaxed and ready to play. You walk out on the stage and it is intimidating as anything, because like nothing is green screened up there. That whole stage is alive with lights, and you walk out and see this like they say things like actually look smaller in real life than when you see them on TV. Nope, not the outside stage. Like it is imposing as anything. And so just to walk out there was really a treat. And if you had told me I had to pay money to go out and do that, just to go out and do the rehearsals, I probably would have done it. But to then actually play the game was fun. And I had modest expectations. I was just thinking, I'm going to go out and just try and answer a few questions right and not embarrass myself. Don't make an ass out of yourself. And then just sort of enjoy. I had a whole day planned in LA, my first taping day. I assumed I was going to be done by lunch. And I got called out for the first game of the day. And so I assumed, great, I'll be done well before lunch. I can go, catch my movie at the Egyptian theater that I want to go see. And Barb and I will go out to dinner. Like, I had a whole plan, and that just got blown up. So yeah, good time.
Because they tape multiple shows in a day.
5 a day.
Okay.
And you have no time between games. The games actually film pretty close to real time. It takes between 30 and 40 minutes to film one game. And after the game ends, and you sort of see this when the end credits start rolling, Ken does his little like post-game interview. That's like 3-4 minutes. But after that, you were basically like frog marched off the stage. You're treated like a juror in like a mafia trial because like they can't let anybody talk to you or anything else. The standards and practices people make sure you're not getting outside information or anything else. So you're just basically like accompanied off the stage by a contestant producer. You are unmiked. You go back and get changed in a little tiny room that has a star on it. It says Jeopardy champion. And you find out after you become a Jeopardy champion that that's a little tiny room, basically smaller than your average dressing room at like a Kohl's. And you get changed, but you go right back out of that room. They re-mic you up, they touch up your makeup, and back out you go with 2 more people. You have no time to think about anything or luckily to get nervous because you're just so locked in the moment.
And that's, I mean, even just some of like the small logistics of, you have to bring 5 changes of clothes just in case.
Yes. They tell you to show up to the studio wearing what you want to wear on screen. Now, that's
that's like being on local TV as well. It's like, there's no dressing room. Yeah.
And stuff like that. And sometimes the wardrobe department, Bridget, will come along and she'll say that tie's not going to work or this jacket is too wild or whatever. But you bring 2 changes of clothes along with you. And the logic is that you're probably only going to play 1 game. That's just reality for everybody. But this way you have some choices. But they tell you to bring 2 because you more than 3 consecutive games because there is a break in there for lunch. So in a real pinch, like during the lunch break, you could dig through this like rack of loaner clothing of some very basic and simple things that will definitely work on camera. I luckily did not have to do that because I had like several shirts and a couple of like sweaters and Henleys like to put over it. So we were able to like mix and match for the whole day. But then you hit the end of the day because I played and won all 5 games and was brain dead by the end of that. But the last thing you do is you meet with the producers and again wardrobe again, and they say, okay, we have a mission for you. You need to go out of the studio, go off the lot. We need you to go find a store and come back with at least 2 more shirts and 1 more sweater tomorrow because you can't look like you're wearing the same stuff for weeks on end. So, yeah, so I wander, bleary-eyed out of Sony Pictures Entertainment at 6 o'clock on a Monday evening. And immediately made my way to the Culver City Ross Dress Better for Less. And we're trying to find a sweater in Southern California, which is really actually kind of hard to do. I was able to find a couple of shirts, but that was it. But that was pretty wild.
It's just kind of ridiculous. It's like, hey, you've had a really good day. Now go buy clothes. Yes. And then you went back the next day as well because it's 6 wins over 7 games that you played.
Correct. Yeah, and there are 2 shooting days. Usually, there's 2 shooting days every other week, and they shoot basically 2 weeks at a shot in those 2 days. And so I came back the next day, and like I said, I was not mentally prepared for this. Like this was just so what I had anticipated, and it felt very unreal. And then you start thinking, well, what if the same thing happens tomorrow? Do I stay in LA for a week and a half waiting for the next tape session? Do I fly home and then fly back? Like, what do I tell my family or my students? Like, it's just, you started asking yourself, well, luckily it didn't come up. I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, went back the next morning. And actually, I will say the most fun I've ever had sort of almost doing anything was that second taping day because I walked into the room that day, walked onto the studio lot, and I had already won 5 games. I knew I was going to the Tournament of Champions. I had won plenty of money. Like that was not that we did it for the money anyway, but it was just nice knowing it was there.
Sure.
I didn't care if I got blown out in the first game I went back. So for like that 2 hours of like rehearsal and briefings and everything the second day with a whole new group of contestants, I was able to just kind of sit back and take it in and sort of think about it and remember stuff, which I definitely did not do the first day. Everybody's up in their heads and sort of anxious.
And that's, I imagine though, when for that second day, right, where the 2 new contestants come on for that game 6, And it's, and our returning champion, 5 days and, X amount of time. Like immediately that's got to throw people off a game where it's like, oh shit, this guy, like this guy's already like in it. I mean, I don't know if you had conversations with folks about that, but like, I feel like that'd be, it's like, you walk into like a, like a pickup softball game and it's, here's Bryce Harper, who's gonna, yeah.
I will say that
it goes against all of my instincts to throw in a Phillies reference, but I'm doing it for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm mad at myself right now for it, but yeah.
There is some element of that, and I will say there are two things that militated against it. One is that the producers themselves, sort of in the morning briefing, say, and this is our returning champion, Josh, and he won 5 games yesterday.
Okay, so they're not hearing about it for the first time as they're walking out on stage. Okay, that's and nice.
Also they tell all those contestants in the green room, they're like, and by the way, he's like, Josh, cover your ears. He's like, but everybody loses on Jeopardy. Okay, if that wasn't true, like Ken would still be playing or Amy would still be playing. Like everybody loses. So don't be intimidated by that. And the second thing that works against that is that my sort of natural instincts as a professor and a teacher came out. Whereas I'm like, hey, what do you all want to know? Like, what is it you? And because somebody said, haha, you're gonna tell us how to beat you? I'm like, yeah. What do you want to know? I like, first of all, you're all way too timid for like the first 8 questions. Okay, you're still trying to figure out how to work the stage, whereas I'm already there. I've already done it. So don't do that. Be more aggressive in like the first 8 questions. Like, and I was trying to help people along, and because it makes me feel good, first of all, to try and help other people, and also it's a natural outgrowth of the whole environment in that studio, because everybody from the contestants to the producers to the tech team to everybody is just so supportive and so helpful with each other that you kind of want everyone to do well. And one of the best memories I have of my time out there was on our first tape day, and Ken Jennings showed up and looking exactly like you would expect one to look after having just gotten off a plane, which he had, because he does not live in LA. He lives in Seattle, and he flies down to do taping. And so he shows up, he rolls into the studio as we're doing rehearsals in like jeans and like a dirty sweat, like a wrinkled sweatshirt. His hair is a mess. But he says to us, he's like, look, I want to come out and say hi just because I love meeting, Jeopardy players. I still think of myself as a Jeopardy contestant. And then he said, we wish everybody could win on Jeopardy. He's like, but we know that's not going to happen. He's like, but I promise you, something's going to happen today that's going to be a win for you. You're going to guess at a question that's going to be right. Or you're going to be the only one who gets Final Jeopardy right. Or you're going to get to go all in on a daily double. But you're going to come away with something. And the culture there is just so incredibly supportive that it makes it a very natural thing to sort of try and help each other out.
And it's interesting to hear you talk about just going into your professor mode of trying to help people along as well, because I think it makes watching at home a little bit more exciting when everybody's really into it and you feel like the contestants are, if not equally matched, like passionate and like I'm going to go out there and leave it all on the field, right? I'm going to go leave it all on the stage, right? And there are some shows, some episodes of the show when you watch where you get that vibe of, like it's determination and it's friendly and it's light and it's, it's, maybe you're going to know some questions, maybe you're not, maybe you're going to step into some cool categories, maybe you're not, but like there's definitely, energy that comes through the screen as a viewer when the players are dialed in.
And I would say that, I can't speak for everybody, but the most fun I had in my games were the games that were like really competitive and you were trying to get in, or it was bouncing back and forth and lead changes. My favorite game I played was against Melanie Hirsch, who was just back for the Second Chance tournament. And I'm very happy to say my friend Melanie won a couple of games in the Second Chance tournament and can now call herself a Jeopardy champion because she totally deserves it. But I remember when I played against her, when we hit the end, it might have been the very end of the Double Jeopardy round going into final. And I just remember looking sort of down the lane across the podiums at her and like, that was so much fun. Like, because it really was. And that was the only game where I went into Final Jeopardy trailing, but I didn't care because it was just such a fun game to play. And it went down to the last question. And it was so dramatic. But it's unfortunate, though, because you can see it cut the other way, too, where especially once you've been on that stage, watching from home now, you can see people who are just sort of like down on themselves and are really struggling just psychologically up there. And that's just a shame to see because, one of the things that the senior contestant producer John tells us back in the green room, he's like Jeopardy is trauma, but it's good trauma. It's like, you're gonna this is gonna be like an impactful thing. You're gonna leave the day kind of beaten up mentally. He's like, but you're gonna be happy you did it. But for some people, they come away from it, and whether it was because they felt like they tripped up on something they should have known, or they felt like they didn't do as well as they should, or maybe they feel like they got a bad break and the luck was just against them. But you can sometimes see where people are just sort of not happy, and that's really unfortunate. Because by and large, overwhelmingly, Jeopardy contestants are extremely kind and friendly people.
Yeah. Um, so speaking to the power of how many people watch this show and the cultural institution that it is, during your run, when they come out and they do the quick interviews of, so Josh, tell me about you kind of thing. Or, hey, Josh, I understand that you like to brew beer at home and that kind of thing. My neighbor across the street who watches faithfully every night, I'm out walking the dog or something. And she's like, oh, I thought of you during Jeopardy the other day. There's this really nice young man and he's a home brewer. And I thought of you. And I was like, oh yeah, Josh. And she's like, oh, I was like, yeah, no, I know, I've had beers with him in Pittsburgh. I'm a big fan of his writing. And she's like, of course you knew him. It's, the beer world is so small. And I was like, it is. But it was really funny that, that one thing stuck out in her mind, and then she wanted to talk to me about it. And I imagine that happens to other contestants as well. But I mean, were you ready for how many people reached out or recognized you? Or
not even close? No, I was.
What was the phrase that you had for it?
Being jeopardized.
Jeopardized. Yeah.
Because I mean, I expected people, first of all, I didn't expect anybody to care. Like my friends and family, sure, but like I didn't expect that the wider world, like even knowing that like 10, 12 million people like sort of see the show on roughly a daily basis, but that's still a relatively small percentage of the population, right? And I expected a little bit like around town, because I didn't say from Philadelphia. I said from Collegeville, PA. So I thought, okay, people in my community are going to kind of, maybe notice that somebody from town is playing. But it was, I want to say it was like 4 days after my last episode aired. Barbara, my wife, and I, we ran the Atlantic City half marathon. And I'm going to say a kid, because he couldn't have been more than 21, 22 years old. From the side of the sort of like running path at the Atlantic City half marathon yells, "Hey, aren't you Josh Weikert from Jeopardy?" And like in that moment, first of all, it's mile 13 of a half marathon. You don't look like yourself. You look like a sweating, lunatic.
Yeah, you look like Ken Jennings showing up in jeans and messed up hair. Yeah,
exactly. And so that, I think in that moment, I realized, oh, this is now going to be a thing that happens. And it played out for the first, I want to say like 4 months or so, which way longer than I expected. The first 4 months or so, from like March to like June or July, if I was out in public on any given day, one person at least would recognize me. Barbara and I joked around. We had like a dry erase board. We would how many days it had been since I'd been jeopardized, and it was always at 0, and that was the joke. Wow. It happened all the time, and it still happens. I mean, it's less common now because it's been coming up on a year since I was on the show, but it still happens. We were down in Stone Harbor in a restaurant. We were at the Watering Holl, which is one of our favorite restaurants down there.
That's a Jersey Shore town for those who don't know the region, but yes.
Yeah. So we're at this restaurant where we go, and a woman just walks up with her whole family and says, "Hi, Josh, is it okay if we get a picture with you? Because my husband's a big fan of Jeopardy, and we all watch together, and we love watching with our kids, and we love that you were." And you say yes, because it's amazing to see people who are that excited about it. Even though I'm like the most introvert person in the world, like it's not something I'm comfortable with, but it is something you do, and it also like you want to represent the show well too. So that's always fun. But it is somebody updated the Wikipedia page for Stone Harbor, New Jersey. Speaking of, And on the list of notable people includes like Taylor Swift, who vacationed there when she was younger, and like
Yeah.
named down is six-time professor, author, and six-time Jeopardy champion Josh Weikert summers in Stone Harbor, and I'm like, wow, that's that. I'm now sharing space with Taylor Swift. That's heady stuff.
I'm sure she's thrilled by that.
Absolutely.
It's rarefied air. It's great company. And I mean, a lot of that has to do, and I'm not diminishing. Like a 1 day thing is probably friends and family, right? It's the 5 day. It's the 6 day. It's going to the Tournament of Champions. It's that you're in everybody's home every single night for a week.
And I didn't appreciate just how long it would take to like play out. Like 7 episodes seems awfully fast, especially when you're shooting them. But even in your head, you're like, well, but it's like Friday to the following Monday. Like it's not that long an amount of time. You're right. There's definitely like it take a little time. It starts to metastasize, like in the sort of like in popular culture.
Yeah, and you get to start to tell your story a little bit more. You can talk about, your jobs, your service, your home brewing, I mean, there's all these things.
For sure.
Yeah, that I think just help resonate with people as well. And you're sworn to secrecy of like how you did on the show. So, it what's that like when were you having watch parties? Were you just sitting quiet in a room by yourself meditating from
We had
7
watch
to
parties.
7:30? Like what was the,
No,
yeah.
no. We committed ourselves to being sort of out in the world when this happened, because it seems like too good an opportunity to miss. Like even for somebody who doesn't like crowds and doesn't like people, it was still really exciting to be out there. For the very first game, Immaculata University, my employer, put on a big watch party for me, and there were probably about 300 people in the room. And it was current and former students, it was faculty, it was many of the sisters there, because we're a religious college, we're
Yeah.
a Catholic college. So some of the IHM sisters were out there, and more were watching over in the IHM residence hall. So I was getting prayed for by like a large cohort of nuns, which I feel like helped. And by the way,
I like that you're getting prayed for while it's on tape.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, this actually is perfectly consistent with Catholic catechism, because everyone's like, well, what's the point of praying if God knows what's going to happen? It's like, no, because God knows you're going to pray for it. So that's why it came into. So like, this is perfectly consistent. That retroactive good luck. No point. So we had a huge event there, and it was so funny because I'm like, thank God I know I won. Because otherwise, this would be rough if like I had hundreds of people at this thing and I like completely just blew it out of my ass. That would have been really uncomfortable. So when that game ended and I was able to like take questions from the crowd there, I said, "Oh, just thank God this went well, because otherwise I've been so sad to have disappointed you all like that."
Yeah. I mean, you could have also been like, no, we don't need to do a big party. Just, just watch it in the privacy of your own home. Don't change your viewing routines for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I don't want to put anybody out. That was exciting, to be able to stand up there and see everybody, and especially because like the energy at this watch party was like watching people watch the Eagles play. Like they would be booing my fellow contestants when they got answers right. I'm like, no, people, they're really nice. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Or, being Philly, if you lost, I mean, if you see people carrying in handfuls of batteries, yeah.
I was prepared. Yeah. With some protective gear.
Duck and weave.
But after that first big watch party, we just went to sort of like local bars and restaurants where we can invite people, and everybody would come out. And I'd say we had probably 40 or 50 people each night for the watch
That's
party.
great.
What's
I mean,
hilarious, though, is that after like 2 or 3 games, all of a sudden people start assuming you're just going to keep winning. And my own father said to me, I think it was for like game 3 or 4, he's like, "No, I'll just come to tomorrow night." And I'm like, "Dad, like, what are you talking about? There's no
there's no guarantee of tomorrow." Yeah.
No, very few people understand just how hard it is to win one game of Jeopardy. It is really, really hard. Like so much has to go right, and there's so much that can trip you up. And sometimes like I said, it's just, you can be the sharpest and quickest person on the stage, and still little stuff can change the tenor of the entire game. And so but there is a weird thing where people just start to believe that having won, you will just keep winning, and that's just not the way it goes.
Yeah, but I think there's also like the hope as well, right? If somebody knows you, this is like the hero situation, right? Where it's just like you want the hero to keep winning. You want the good thing to keep happening. And the thing that I was thinking about just the way that Jeopardy works and everything. So you are, I believe, the second person that I know who has won big on a game show.
Okay.
The first being Dantes, who won a car on The Price is Right.
Ah,
Like he won the Showcase Showdown,
yeah,
which
that's
is
good.
which is really cool. But again, that's sort of like uh, that one episode, and then you move on. It's I think his friends and family remember, and we're all excited for him. But it's not that repetitive thing, and then there's no opportunity to come back like you are later on this month with the Tournament of Champions.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how is that experience different, as much as you can tell us,
Sure.
from
For
the
sure.
first time around?
Well, the first time around, I would say you're very much sort of a lone wolf out there. Like you arrive in the city and you text, your contact at Jeopardy and let them know you arrived. But you sort of walk yourself to the studio the next day. You sort of present yourself at the motor gate, and they buzz you in and things like that. But you're kind of on your own, and that's true. Like for the second day too. Like you're kind of just you're there, and that's all you're doing. Going back for the Tournament of Champions is a very different animal because, first of all, and this was something I did not appreciate until after my first run, you don't stop and think about the fact that like you've been thinking about this maybe for your whole life, and odds are you're going to walk up on that stage and that's the last time that's ever going to happen. Um, but it was only after I played and I got to like sort of think about it, like, oh wait, I actually get to go back. I get to do this again, and that in itself was a really wild thought. But when you go back the second time, your travel is all arranged by Sony for the second trip out. You were out for
Okay.
you were flown out the weekend before. You're flown home the following weekend, right? And you're out there. Every contestant in the tournament is there for the entire time. You are put up at the very nice hotel in Culver City, the Culver Hotel, and that's on the studio. You get bussed in the pretty black shuttle van from the hotel to the studio, even though it's like half a mile, right? Meanwhile, your friends and family still have to walk clear around to the other side of the lot to get in like the tourist gate, wait in line, and they have to do that twice a day, even if they're there the whole day. They have to like race off the lot to they have like 20 minutes to scramble and scavenge whatever food they can get. Meanwhile, we get walked over to the Sony commissary for lunch, and we have time to we didn't lollygag around, but we had time to sit around and shoot the shit after we ate too. So like it's a very different experience, and it goes from being sort of like being a cog in the machine of you're out there to play Jeopardy to now you're sort of on the team, right? Like you're part of the show, it's part of the production for when you're out there for the Tournament of Champions. And the very best part of it is getting to meet all of these people that you have seen play Jeopardy. And
Sure.
I imagine it's a bit like when like Hollywood actors sort of meet each other for the first time, even though they've seen each other's work for years. That's sort of what it felt like that whole day as we were traveling to Culver City and like a snowball, like picking up contestants as we went. So I met Matt Massey, who is another contestant in the Tournament of Champions. In fact, Matt and I play each other in the quarterfinal on the 23rd. But Matt is from West Virginia originally, but lives in Philadelphia in the Philadelphia area now. So I met him at the airport actually before we even got to California. And then you get to California and you're going to the hotel and you're running into people, and it's like each other immediately. So there's a very quick uptake in sort of the friendliness and the camaraderie. And starting that first night when we all got together in the bar of the Culver Hotel, just to sort of like formally meet everybody and have a good time and relax a little bit, it was a ton of fun right out of the gate. And every day was like that from that day forward through the end till we all left. We basically all started every day down in the lobby of the hotel, like with coffee and danishes and whatever else, and we all went over to the studio together. And almost every night we all went out together somewhere too in town. And what I've been telling people is that like if you took a photo every morning at 7:30 a.m. or 8 a.m. of all of us down in the in the lobby of the hotel, and took another photo at 8 p.m. that night with all of us out at Jameson's, the Irish Bar, or wherever it is in Culver City, you would have absolutely no idea who had won or lost that day. It was just
That's cool.
so supportive and so friendly. One of the contestants, Paolo Pasca, had a tie issue. He brought three ties with him, but they were all too busy, and the large wardrobe people nixed all of his ties. And he's like, "Guys, I need ties." That night, he got like just lambasted with like 19 ties down in the lobby of the hotel, in the lobby bar. And that's the kind of support that we saw the entire week. And it was truly remarkable. I don't know if it's like that for every TOC or for the other tournaments, but ours felt very special. And we are still, these are friends that you will have now for the rest of your life having gone through this together.
That's really, I mean, that's sort of encouraging. And I mean, it sounds I mean, not dissimilar to the beer industry.
Yeah.
Or, especially the pro thing of like, you want to compete against each other. You want to do well. You want, the customer eyeballs or the wins or, the dollars. But also, you're going to help each other out, along the way. Um, when you did the first time around the interviews and you were talking about being a home brewer and a writer and all of that, like, has that, I mean, homebrewing's in this weird space right now. Where it seems to be flagging a little bit. I know the AHA in its new form is trying to drum that up. Have you had people ask you about making beer at home because of Jeopardy?
I would say yes. It's obviously hard to know. Sort of, it's like a chicken and egg sort of thing. Like, are they interested in the homebrewing or interested in Jeopardy or both? But yeah, for sure, people have brought it up, or they said that. Well, I had one person tell me I hadn't brewed in years, but then you mentioned it on the show, and so I got back into it. So it's had some effect. It's
Wow,
obviously
you're personally responsible for the revival.
some number of people.
That's what I'm going to tell people that, yeah,
Brewing, yes, yes.
Josh
Yeah,
Weikert saved
any
home brewing in
turnaround from
America.
early 2025 till in the future, yes, I will take all the credit for
Um, that's wild. So what's the big takeaway, if there is one, or even the small takeaway, or let's do both, right? What is the big thing about this experience, that you're going to carry with you? And then what's like the small thing as well?
the big thing for sure, excuse me, is that, that, and this is such a cliche, and I can't believe I'm even going to say it out loud, but like set yourself big goals, have big dreams. Like, this is not something everybody gets to do. There are, you know, they say something like 200,000 people every year take the Jeopardy online test, and only 1% of them end up in the contestant pool, and only a tiny fraction of those end up on that stage. But somebody's they're going to call somebody. So put it out there and see what happens. Because at every stage, I was thinking to myself, this probably isn't going to go any further, but I'm going to just do what I can, and we'll see what happens. And it ended up in this amazing place. And this is sort of consistent with other. It's a more clear distillation of other examples of this I've given in my life to like students I've advised who have certain career goals, and I say, look, just keep pushing in a direction that you think is interesting and worthwhile, and you'll end up in a good place. This is just a much sharper example of that, where this is something people know. Like, it's weird knowing that you probably like lived like the first line of your obituary. Like, whatever happens,
Oh
like
man.
however many years, like it's probably going to lead with six-time Jeopardy champion, Jeopardy super champion Josh Weikert. It's sort of humbling to know that is now maybe behind you, but it also is something that I'm incredibly grateful for, because it was so far beyond what I expected to happen when I set foot on that stage. And that was the other thing, is like, be willing to let good things happen to you. Like, I told people before I went out, like, you understand, I'm almost certainly just going to walk out, play one game and lose, right? And somebody said, well, that sounds defeatist. I'm like, I'm not saying I won't like take advantage of luck when I get it. And I certainly did when I was out there. There were times that I should have lost, and the dice sort of rolled a certain way, and I got to stick around. So yes, that's the big thing, is like, I believe in that big and great things can happen to you. It's sort of I'm going to butcher the line from The Alchemist, but basically dare great things and the universe will conspire to your aid.
Yeah.
The small thing is, and it's a quieter thing. It's more something I've shared with people having lost on Jeopardy, and that is, and again, it's another cliche, but like, if you do your best and your best isn't good enough, that's actually kind of okay. Like, if you put it all out there and you didn't let yourself down, then the scores at the end of the day kind of don't matter. Like they said, everybody loses on Jeopardy. Everybody loses in life sooner or later. So just focus on doing what you can do. And every single game before I went out, I repeated a mantra that Barbara and I had sort of been talking about, which is, just have fun, remember the category, try to respond to the clue, and that's it. And repeat that 60 times, and that's a game of Jeopardy. And life is like that too. Focus on the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves.
I like that. Um, I've been asking folks on the show for a while now what I call the green door question. And the premise is on the television show The Good Place. In the final season, they introduce a concept of the green door where the characters can walk through it and be wherever they want, doing whatever they want. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence and this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be in any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking?
Okay. One quick clarifying question. Can I change the geography of the pub or bar?
I mean, this is your
relocate. Okay. So this is like
yeah.
magic wand time. Okay.
Yeah.
I would take Monk's in Philadelphia.
Okay. Smart.
Not even necessarily the whole thing. Just give me the back bar at Monk's.
I mean, that's the promo. If you had said the front, I'd be like, I don't think you've been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go walk straight in the back door, right, left, and you're back in that back room.
It's so good. I mean, yeah.
Especially,
anyway,
again, being an introvert is somebody who likes like dark, quiet spaces. That is a wonderful bar. So I would take that and I would put it somewhere with like a beach view in Stone Harbor, which we mentioned several times. It really is one of my favorite places on earth.
you and T Swizzle. Yeah.
Exactly. And I would, without doubt, be there with my wife, Barbara. And I'm not saying nobody else, but as long as she was there, I'd be good. Barbara said one of the nicest things I've ever said to her is that being with her was like being alone, but with another person.
That's very sweet.
We're an introvert. That's like, I feel like that's the greatest compliment you can give. But yeah, and doing what? And I will say that this is actually getting shockingly close to actually what the day before I went on Jeopardy looked like, because what I would be doing is watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl over and over again. The day before I went on Jeopardy was the last Super Bowl where the Eagles just absolutely destroyed the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah,
we were sitting at this little on the front porch of this little,
which is now why you and your neighbor Taylor Swift have all this beef going. But yeah, that's fine.
Absolutely. No, she's still a Philly going girl, but never mind that. But we were sitting on the front porch of this little French restaurant with not very many other. It wasn't super crowded, so we had like great service, and they had a pretty good beer list, and they had a big TV right there, and like a fireplace right there. And I'm like, I just was sitting there sipping beer while Barbara was asking me Jeopardy prep questions, watching the Eagles just dismantle the Chiefs. And that week I just found out that week that I'd been promoted to full professor, and I was going to go on Jeopardy the next day. And like, it was one of these things where I'm like, it is actually possible that I died in the plane crash out here, and that like it was actually happening. It's just a Jacob's Ladder scenario, because it was just so.
Wake up, Josh! Please wake up! Yeah.
And then the next day, I went on Jeopardy and won 5 games, and like it was one of these things where like I told Barbara that day, I'm like, honey, please don't take this the wrong way, but this was the best day of my life. Prior to this, it was our wedding day, but this is now the best day of my life. And she's like, no, I totally get it.
I love that. That's so cool. Mm-hmm. So the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions starts on the 19th. We see you for the first time on the 23rd.
That's correct.
We have no idea. You know what happens. The rest of us don't know what happens, but I'm excited to tune in.
Believe it or not, John, though, it is easy to forget what happened.
Okay.
Before my first one, when we're in what we Jeopardy contestants refer to as this time warp period, where like it's been recorded but it hasn't aired yet, there were times between February 11th and March 21st, when my first episode aired, that I swear to you, I would be sitting around going, God, I hope this goes okay. And I'm like, idiot, it already happened. What are you talking about? But you honestly sort of forget that it's already happened. So yeah, rolling into the tournament here, I'm as excited to see what happens as anybody. And part of that is because in the moment, especially in tournament play, you just have more time to sort of think and sort of and contemplate in a way that you don't have when you're just out playing the regular game.
Well, I imagine the nuns are on standby, praying for your win.
Absolutely.
Which is great. And no matter what happens, what a cool thing. And thanks for sharing the story and sharing the insight. This is I'm glad to know you. I'm excited for you. And thanks, Josh.
My pleasure.
I have no doubt you'll be rooting for Josh as much as I will. Again, a reminder to tune in on January 23rd to see him in action. Check your local listings. As always, you can reach me on email at johnholl@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL @allaboutbeer.com. Make sure you join the This Week in Raukbier group on Facebook or follow @TW on Instagram. Upload your photos. Join the conversation. And you can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support. When you go to the website, you can check out the new content as well as all of the archives, which go back to 1979, and follow all of the links to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here is a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder, All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Listen to shows like Brewer to Brewer, which is now a weekly show, and the All About Beer podcast with Dom Tess and M. Souter. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday. The BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. And as for this show, Nate Schweber does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.